which puts a lot. I'm Radha from Web3 Foundation. I'm a technical education lead. I joined Web3 Foundation like a year ago. I was a teaching professor in computer science at the University of Vermont for 3 years, and I did my PhD at University at Buffalo in computer science. With that intro, so let's take a look at like what light clients are, what their status is right now, and what it means to be, having like an unstoppable app. Okay, so what does it take to build an unstoppable app? So let's look at the internet right now and see, so you have an application, it doesn't crash, it works very well, you want to host it somewhere, right? So you host it, let's say, on a cloud service provider, and you want that app to run irrespective of anything that happens out there. So nobody should have like a kill switch to your app. Nobody should be able to shut it down, and at the hosting level, and also at the end-to-end level, right? The user who should always be able to access that particular app. So that is the level of unstoppableness we are talking about, and whatever we do should actually make this down detector website run out of their business, meaning your app should be able to work irrespective of what happens out there. So eliminating single points of failure. So this is what we have to focus on. It's not like the current internet focuses on that. There's a lot of distributed architecture, which puts a lot of redundancy into the services that are offered. But at the philosophical level, they are still centralized, right? So distributed does not mean decentralized. So there is always this situation where things can be stopped, things can fail. So that's where the whole Web3, the paradigm sort of helps. Decentralizing all these services, having them like running on live networks, right? So live networks like Polkadot, where the blockchain itself is going to like just work. Okay, so irrespective of what happens, the blockchain is running, it's producing blocks. So we have the Web3. It's very early. We have the services that are actually focusing on this, identifying every single point of failure in the pipeline end to end, and fixing them through like decentralized solutions. Okay, so how do we do that? So at every single stage, we want to create a protocol that eliminates the need for a third party. So for the Polkadot protocol, we have validators, we have nodes, so we are opening up the network in a decentralized way, and every single actor sort of contributes to the network protocol. We don't want like dedicated third-party solutions that sort of act like a middleman in a Web3 landscape where we want to eliminate middlemen to begin with, right? So right now, as it stands in the blockchain space, to get like that level of access, a user has to run a node on their own. So taking the analogy from the previous speaker, so we're asking the user to go to the well and get the water out of that well by themselves. So, but unfortunately, like the demands from the user are always like this is the first thing that they say whenever they are trying to use an application. Just make it easy for me to use it, right? So, and that's a fair demand given like the entire Web2 like economy is built around this, like convenience. Okay, so what is the user willing to give away for making the service convenient for the user, right? So, so the user expectations, the main thing is make it easy, and yeah, so like I mentioned, there are two options. So one is to run your own node. This requires some level of technical knowledge and some level of like emotional as well as like physical investment into setting up that infrastructure. It's slightly inconvenient as it stands. And there are few blockchains out there where it's not even possible for you to run your own node on like a machine that you have right now. So that's a problem that needs to be addressed. And then the other thing is the usage of publicly accessible nodes. Now, being a blockchain ecosystem, there are plenty of nodes that are out there that give you some kind of service for you to be able to like access the actual blockchain. So that can be a little centralized and insecure. So we'll see shortly why. But it's convenient, right? So you just connect to that service. You're able to send your tokens or stake your tokens or whatever. Right, so take a look at this, and we have these central access points in our, in our ecosystem as well, along with like other blockchain ecosystems. So we want to bridge both of them. The challenge here is purely technical. It's not something that can't be done. So I'll show you shortly like what kind of solution Polkadot and Substrate have come up with. So I have a couple of examples here. I'm not just talking in the air, like there's no hypothetical things here. So there are issues. I've listed 2 of them. I'm not calling out on those 2. Those are the 2 things that I found when I searched for issues with having these third-party services. So the first thing is possibility of censorship or hijacking. It's pretty straightforward. An RPC call is not the same as interacting with the blockchain directly, right? So an RPC call is made to kind of like a server, a node that acts as a server. It can censor, some transactions. It can the infrastructure itself can be sort of hijacked, like what I have up there. The second thing is reliability. So the talk's title is like being building an unstoppable app. So an unstoppable app requires like a reliable host or something that's always available for the users to access. So that sort of reliability is gone if you're having these central point of failures. And the last thing, it's not much of being unstoppable, but being taken advantage of. Like there's a possibility of like front running. There are people actually eavesdropping on the transactions that you're submitting. And things might be taken advantage of. So these are the issues with like RPC nodes that we use every day through our wallets installed on our browsers. And all of you developers out there, you all need like a standing applause, because as Web3 developers, the user expectations are a little more than a normal user. It's like you have to make it easy for them, and more than that, you have to make it secure. And if you listen to the previous talk, you want to add some privacy layer to it as well. So there's a lot going on here, and then we're trying to solve like really, really hard problems. So then it comes to this point where why can't we like have a node, a light client that runs on the browser, on a resource-constrained environment like a browser or mobile, directly accesses, the blockchain data, with cryptographic guarantees. Can we sort of create such kind of solution? And to be able to create such solution, we have Substrate. Substrate is the blockchain building framework, which is designed from ground up to sort of support such level of decentralization. So the key actors here are nodes, validators, and light clients. So we're going to focus on that implementation on Substrate for this talk. So for those of you who are not familiar with Substrate, so Substrate is a modular, flexible, and extensible framework for building blockchains. You can just go to the GitHub repo, download the Substrate template node, and have the blockchain up and running. So that's how easy it is to get started with like building blockchains. Substrate has palettes. All of these are like Lego blocks that you can include in your blockchain runtime and sort of build interesting blockchain applications. So Yeah, so we have Substrate Connect. So that's the solution developers at Parity have come up with. So Substrate Connect is a real Substrate client that runs in JavaScript. So to our knowledge, this is the first node that entirely runs in a JavaScript execution environment. So it's a big achievement in a way. So here we have a node that's directly connecting to the blockchain from the browser. And you can test it out. So that's the command you can just have on your command prompt, and you have it set up. So Substrate Connect itself, so it's a package, I'll talk about it later. It's like an extension that connects to the blockchains. The underlying client that actually connects to the blockchains is small dot. So small dot. So it's like a small dot node. So it itself is powered by the technology of WebAssembly. For Substrate and Polkadot, WebAssembly is the key. So the entire runtime and the state transition logic, we want browsers to be able to execute that. So that node is powered by WebAssembly. And then small dot itself is coded in Rust. So you can explore that as well. So it's ready for download, so you're free to check it out, download Substrate Connect from the the extension app stores, available on Google Chrome and Firefox. So the way it works is you can use Polkadot, UIs like Polkadot.js apps, and if there is no Substrate Connect installed, it'll try to initialize the light client in the browser itself. It can face some issues because this requires some TLS certificates, or it's not easy to connect to without the TLS certificate through browser. But actually having an extension sort of bypasses that problem with the legacy Web 2 architecture. So install the extension, connect to the Substrate Connect, and then access the blockchain that you want to, that it supports. So here is, I didn't want to do a live demo given the time constraints. So here is a recording of, okay, so this was supposed to play. This was a GIF, but it's not playing. So anyway, so you can connect Polkadot.js to the Substrate Connect. And as you can see, it's capable of supporting multiple chains. Okay, so the single light client connecting opening ports to different peers on different networks. So that's the possibility that we're seeing here. Given Polkadot and parachains, you want one client that is running, that is connecting to several chains at once, and then giving you access to the blockchain services. So if you want to see Substrate Connect in action, so you can actually check the logs as well as how many peers you're connected to, the block number, and so on and so forth. So I don't know how I'm doing with time, but yeah, so we're almost nearing the end of the talk. So there's no trick here. So the node, it's an actual node that is running in JavaScript, and we are one of the first to develop such node that's connecting to a major blockchain. So the API is very similar to interacting with RPC node. So this light client itself opens an interface to make RPC calls. So if you're a developer who already developed an app around that, you can directly switch to Substrate Connect. And yeah, so it can be experimented right now. And yeah, so it caught a lot of attention during Polkadot Decoded. That happened not so long ago. People are very excited, and that's why I was asked to rehash the content and sort of present it to this audience today. So yeah, so try to take a look at this talk, Talisman. It's a wallet. So they've delivered a demo using Substrate Connect, how they sort of do give better performance in terms of user experience. You're able to quickly connect to the chain. Yeah, so far I've painted a very, very green picture of what light clients are, and then how they sort of enable these unstoppable apps. But what are the challenges with light clients? In a way, if you think about them, so they are just takers, not givers. So they're not giving anything back to the network. They're actually occupying a slot on a node that is giving the service. So they're good for the decentralization perspective, but Web3 is all about like incentives, right? So somehow we have to incentivize nodes to serve these kind of light clients. The problem is not much right now because not many people are aware, because the problem of defaults. So the default settings is a big thing. People actually pay billions of dollars to have a certain kind of default setting out there, right? So even Polkadot.js, by default, it connects to a bunch of RPC nodes that are out there with the light client experimental thing down there. So the users have to be really aware or be educated about like what's going on to be able to access this kind of service, to be able to not trust these people, even though they are big names, so anything can happen anytime. So just go to the light client and have an access to the protocol itself, which you trust more than the entities that are listed there. So a couple of ideas, and for the challenges is this. Reserving slots for light clients. So again, light clients don't do a lot of stuff. They don't actually like execute the blocks by themselves. They have like lesser requirements than like a full node. So it makes sense to sort of burn that into the protocol itself to support like more light clients. The other thing is like incentivizing people to run these sort of nodes. Like have like micro payments every time someone transacts with a light client. Already the transaction fees in Substrate and Polkadot is very less. Have like micro payments on top of that, like a 1% of the transaction fee, going to like these sort of nodes that are sort of serving the light clients for the decentralization promise that Web3 want to deliver. Again, I just checked this repo yesterday night. There are 109 open issues and then 17 pull requests and about like 230 closed issues, right? So it's still in development. It's a team at Parity that is working on this, but being like a Web3 venture, I would like request all of you to take a look at it, use it in your applications, try to find out like what kind of bugs are there, and then sort of solve them. Because once we solve everything, make it like a mature client, then everybody can sort of use it. And with that, I finished my talk. Yeah, so I hope you found this interesting. So the light clients are starting to mature. They're going to serve the promise of having like unstoppable apps end to end. So the blockchain is going to host an app, and nobody has a kill switch to that. And as a user, you have unstoppable access to that app running on that blockchain as well. Thank you very much.